Amazing rescue, little girl, left alone after father's funeral, finds family in a police officer. Lily stood alone in the old church, gripping her father's well-worn boots. They smelled faintly of sawdust mixed with the scent of freshly cut pine, a comforting reminder of all the Saturdays spent in his workshop. Yet, now they felt like a weight, heavy with grief and finality. Her heart ached as the reality of his absence seeped into her tiny bones, filling her with a hollowness she couldn't name. Just outside, she could hear the low murmur of relatives recounting distant memories, but all she could do was grasp the boots tighter, desperate for something solid to hold onto as the world around her blurred into a haze of sorrow. How could she face the days ahead without him? She could feel the emptiness curling in her stomach like a fist, gripping it tightly. Family meant so much to her, yet here she stood, feeling as though she were left behind, abandoned amidst the sea of sympathies and shared condolences. Would they forget her, too, one day? What would happen to the little white house with the green shutters they had shared, the walls filled with laughter and love sculpted from his skilled hands? The future loomed before her, dark and uncertain, chilling her to the core. Suddenly, the creaky door opened, and Officer Jake stepped into the quiet space. Familiar with the town and its troubles, his presence radiated a calm she desperately craved. Their eyes met, and something in her chest shifted as he approached. "Hey, Lily," he said gently, crouching down so they were eye to eye. "Is it okay if I sit with you for a minute?" With a muffled voice, heavy from grief, she confided in him about her fears, the fear of feeling alone, the fear of losing the only family she'd ever known. Would anyone care if she disappeared from their lives? Jake listened, understanding the weight of her words, sharing whispers of his own childhood filled with loneliness and struggle. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Yet as they spoke, a deeper tension surged within her. What if she lost not only her father but also the sense of camaraderie that had filled their home? Deep down, she realized that the workshop wasn't just a building filled with wood and tools, it was a sanctuary of love, a piece of her father's spirit. How could he be gone and still expect to leave that part of him behind? And then came the whispers of uncertainty. What if someone wanted to tear it down? Bile rose in her throat as realization struck her. A local businessman had his eyes set on the land, and Lily's heart raced with fear. It wasn't just wood to him, it was profit. Faced with the choice of fighting for the legacy of her father or allowing it to fade away, an ember of defiance ignited within her. But would she have the strength to confront something so vast at her tender age? Doubts clashed with her growing determination, the pressure inside her chest tightening. In that moment, she felt the weight of expectation settle over her like a thick fog. Nothing mattered more than protecting her father's legacy, but at what cost? Would it be too much for her to bear? As the flicker of courage battled against the pull of despair, she took a deep breath, knowing the path ahead would not be easy. She was on the brink of something big, a new chapter waiting to unfold, but every step felt like a leap into the unknown. The sun dipped behind the horizon, casting elongated shadows through the church windows as Lily slowly stood up. Officer Jake remained seated, offering silent support that felt both comforting and challenging. She was aware that this moment would not last. She couldn't hide behind these boots forever. With a mix of determination and dread pulsing in her veins, she turned to face Jake. "I want to save it," she said suddenly, her voice firmer than she felt. "The workshop. I can't let anyone take it away." Jake blinked, processing her resolve. "That's a big decision, Lily. What do you plan to do?" Her heart raced. Could she draw a plan? She had only ever dreamt of the adventure in those walls, the adventures her father crafted, building a legacy of memories. But now defending it felt like constructing a fortress from mere thoughts. I need to talk to people. Gather support. The idea felt monumental, like standing on the edge of a cliff. Beneath her was a tumultuous sea of uncertainty, but something ignited within her. I can't be the only one who cares, she insisted, more to herself than to him. She envisioned the faces of neighbors, community members who had once smiled and waved. What if she could rally them? Lily, Jake said, his tone gentle yet serious, you're going to need a plan. Just wanting it isn't enough. You need information, allies. The weight of his words hung heavy. Reality crashed down, emotions swirled madly within her. But within those swirling feelings, a pivotal realization dawned, gravelly determination mingled with fear, but perhaps it was fear that might drive her. She hadn't always been confident, but this urgency unearthed something buried deep. Can you help me? She asked, the vulnerability within the request forming an uncertain bridge between them. Of course, he replied, smiling kindly, yet his gaze held the wisdom of experience. I know a few people who might be willing to support you. But first, let us gather all the facts. What does the land mean to the community? What are the laws? We'll need to know exactly what we're dealing with. With each word he spoke, she felt the fog of despair lifting slightly. Goals began to sprout from the soil of fear, inching closer to reality. Each challenge presented itself as a step rather than a wall. Okay, she nodded vigorously, fueled by a blend of anxiety and excitement. I can talk to people. I can find them. As she pondered where to start, fragments of her father's workshop danced in her mind like beams of sunlight breaking through clouds. It was more than a space filled with sawdust, it was a reminder of who he was, and who she could become, a protector of legacies. Just then, her phone buzzed, interrupting the burgeoning plans. A notification flashed on the screen, a message from an unfamiliar number. Her heart skipped. The message simply read, I know about the workshop. We should talk. Every instinct within her screamed for caution, an echo of doubt clashing with her fresh resolve. Who could this person be? Were they friend or foe? She looked at Jake, uncertainty pooling in her eyes. Are you okay? He asked, noticing the shift in her expression. Someone wants to talk about the workshop. I don't know if it's good or bad, she murmured. Trust your gut, he advised. But remember, you're not alone. We'll face this together. With new allies and potential challenges looming, Lily's journey stretched before her, filled with unforeseen turns. Uncertainty wrapped around her like a second skin, but with it came determination. This wouldn't just be a fight for a piece of land, it was a fight for identity. As she stared at the message, a question burned in her mind: who exactly was she prepared to become? Before she could ponder further, Jake's voice cut through her reverie. Tomorrow, let us start by digging deeper. The time had come to face not just the decisions but the hidden truths waiting to emerge. And with that, the weight on her shoulders felt heavier, not knowing what awaited her just beneath the surface. The next morning was cloaked in an almost tangible anxiety as sunlight broke through her bedroom window. Lily rubbed her eyes and sat up, her heart racing with thoughts of the looming challenges ahead. The message from the unknown number lingered in her mind like a specter, foreshadowing a confrontation she was unprepared for. She hastily dressed, throwing on jeans and a fitted shirt that reminded her of her father. Not many pieces of clothing did, but this one held a certain strength that she needed today. As she caught her own reflection in the bathroom mirror, she noticed the faint shadows under her eyes, remnants of restless nights spent wrestling with fear and uncertainty. After a quick breakfast, she sat on the front porch, taking in the familiar sights of her neighborhood, the same cracked pavement she'd played on as a child, the trees her father had planted, and the sounds of morning life unfolding, all reminders of her father's legacy. But now those reminders took on a new weight. They represented not just nostalgia but the fight she was prepared to embrace. With each passing moment, her resolve solidified. What had once felt like an insurmountable task began to morph into a calling. She could not afford to waver. Lily's fingers drifted to her phone, contemplating whether to respond to the message straight away. Who were they, and what did they want? The unknown was terrifying, but revealing herself as a leader and advocate was more intimidating. Just as she was about to dial, her phone buzzed again. It was Jake, reminding her of their meeting. Let us meet at the workshop in an hour. Plan our next steps. The mention of the workshop sent a jolt of determination through her. In that dusty space filled with remnants of her father's life, she'd rediscover herself amidst the chaos of uncertainty. An idea took root in her mind, a strategy to navigate the conversations she envisioned. Instead of fearing what others might say, she would frame the narrative on her terms. Today is the day, she whispered under her breath, finally deciding to step into the role she was hesitantly claiming. She grabbed her keys and headed out, the weight of her previous fear now transformed into the sharpness of purpose. Arriving at the workshop, the familiar scent of wood and tools greeted her. She took a deep breath, letting the nostalgia fill her lungs. This was her ground zero, a place that symbolized hope and resilience, one that had birthed dreams. Jake was already there, inspecting a dusty corner where a few forgotten pieces of furniture sat. Ready for this? He asked, raising an eyebrow while leaning against a workbench. Lily nodded, the resolve in her eyes shining brightly. I want to start by talking to the neighbors, see who might share my feelings about the workshop. I know it might take time, but I can't wait to let this place disappear without a fight. Solid plan, he replied, his enthusiasm sparking a sense of camaraderie that buoyed her spirit. After that, we should draft a solid outline of what the land means to you and others. Your story is powerful, and people will relate to it. As they began outlining their approach, she started to feel lighter, as if the weight of her fears was slowly evaporating with each concrete step they planned. She shared stories from her childhood, her laughter mingling with the scent of varnish and cedar. The workshop came alive in those moments, infused with her voice and dreams. But amid her preparations, the shadow of the message returned, creeping into her thoughts like a fog threatening to blanket her newly ignited flame. Are you sure we can handle whoever sent that message? Jake asked, his brow furrowed as if sensing her distraction. Lily paused, grappling with her response. I don't know who they are, or what they want. But I have to find out. As she said it, a fresh wave of adrenaline coursed through her. This journey wasn't just about preserving a building, it was about unveiling truths, both external and internal. She contemplated how this experience could change her profoundly, testing her sense of self as she faced unknown challenges. Was she prepared to confront whoever had reached out? The thought held her captive, the pull of uncertainty like a magnet, drawing her toward an impending confrontation she could no longer ignore. As the workshop door creaked open, Lily felt the heavy air inside shift, charged with unspoken expectations. The ancient machinery, remnants of her father's craftsmanship, stood as silent witnesses to her turmoil. She couldn't ignore the sound of her heartbeat reverberating against the walls. Today was not just another day, it was a chance to redefine her path. Jake's focused energy was infectious as he cleared away some dust-cloaked sawdust from a nearby bench, creating a workspace ripe for action. Why don't we start drafting something for the neighbors? He suggested, pulling out a notepad. I think focusing on the emotional connection to this place will get people on your side. Lily took a seat across from him, the edges of the plan crystallizing in her mind. What if I share a personal memory? Something that highlights what this workshop means to me? She found her voice steady, confidence bubbling at the surface. It wasn't just nostalgia that propelled her forward, it was the need for connection, the desire to resonate with those who had shared her father's vision. Great idea. Jake nodded, scribbling her words rapidly. But it doesn't end there. We need to craft a narrative that compels them to want to save this workshop alongside you. They began weaving a tapestry of memories. Lily's first project with her father, the sound of tools clinking, the joy of creating something from nothing. Those stories became threads of her identity, instilling a sense of purpose in her narrative. Each past moment transformed into potential energy, ready to be unleashed. Yet, just as excitement built, so did the gnawing questions birth from that ominous message. Who had sent it? What did they want from her? Do you really think we can change minds? She asked, her voice dipping slightly, the confidence wavering as fear clawed at her. Jake hesitated, the flicker of concern illuminating his expression. Lily, we're creating a foundation here. Look at the passion you're showing. But let us address that message. We can't let it linger. Whatever intimidation they hope to instill, we'll combat it with clarity and courage. You need to confront it head-on. Lily's heart raced at his words. There was a truth in them that simmered beneath layers of fear and self-doubt. She contemplated what it meant to confront not just that message, but everything it symbolized: the uncertainty, the potential for rejection, the weight of her father's legacy resting on her shoulders. I can't let fear dictate my actions anymore, she replied, a newfound fierceness igniting within her. Whatever happens, I have to face it. I owe it to myself and to his memory. With resolve solidifying into a concrete choice, she pulled out her phone. The decision to respond to the unknown number hovered above her like the sword of Damocles. The words she intended to craft would reflect her resilience, veiled behind the confident persona she was beginning to shape. But there was trepidation mixed with expectation. What if this decision unlocked doors she wasn't ready to open? Lily hovered over the screen, fingers brushing the glass without committing to a message. Jake, keenly aware of her struggle, broke the silence. Whatever you choose, just know that the heart of your story is the most powerful tool you have. Those words struck her like a live wire. Her story was everything, woven with heartache and resilience, laden with the urgency of salvation for the workshop and everything it stood for. Finally, she pressed send, her pulse quickening in a mix of dread and determination. Now, let us write our outline and prepare for the neighbors. They'll understand your passion will ignite theirs. Just then, the phone buzzed again, a harsh intrusion to the moment of resolve. It was a response from the unknown number, lighting up the screen, reshaping her plans yet again. Lily's stomach knotted as she opened the message, revealing a single line that would shatter her focused ambition. You want to ignore us if you care about your father's legacy. The threat encapsulated it all. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated. How far was she willing to go to face the fear that the message brought? The confrontation that lay ahead was no longer just about a message. It hybridized into her fight for identity, purpose, and the legacy she dared to uphold. In her heart, questions swelled. Was she prepared to not just fight for a building, but also her vision of who she truly was? The moment was ripe. The old war between fear and courage lay before her in stark clarity. There was no turning back now. Lily's pulse thrummed in her ears as she stared at the screen, the harshness of the message eclipsing the warmth of the workshop that had once felt like a sanctuary. The grim reminder of the unknown, a faceless threat lurking in the shadows, clawed at her resolve. What would her next step be? Lily? Jake's voice broke through her daze. He leaned forward, concern etched deeply on his brow. Let us take a moment to breathe. We need a plan, a way to tackle this fear. Breathe. The single word served as both an anchor and a reminder. She needed clarity, but how could she think straight with the pounding anxiety echoing in her chest? Taking a deep breath, she centered herself. The workshop was her father's legacy, yes, but it was also a testament to resilience. It wasn't merely a space of tools and wood, it was a living entity that held her memories and dreams. I need to address this, Jake, she said, her voice steadier than before. If I let it fester, I'll lose everything he worked for. I need to show them, whoever they are, that I'm not going to back down. Jake's expression softened, pride flickering in his eyes. Exactly. Let us blend our narrative with the truth about this threat. will involve the community in a way they can't ignore. Fear can fracture us, but together, we can build something stronger. Together. The word rang in her mind as she began to piece together a strategy that leaned on connection rather than division. Projecting vulnerability could illuminate strength, but she had to confront the dreads first. Her fingers gripped her phone tightly as she scrolled to compose a response, crafting her words with calculated precision. Would she express indignation or strength? Emotion or defiance? In a moment of inspiration, her fingers danced across the glass, a resolute message evolving. I care deeply about my father's legacy, and you will not scare me away from protecting it. With a few keystrokes, she pressed send, the digital noise feeling like a rallying cry. It was in that moment she realized that her voice, her strength, was tethered to the very workshop that sheltered her. Now, let us work on that outline. We have a story to share, she declared, newfound determination sparking in her chest. Yet her heart still carried the weight of the possible consequences, the implications of standing firm versus the fear of the unknown. As they diligently worked, scribbling out ideas and drafting narratives, Lily felt an unfamiliar warmth growing. She didn't just want the neighbors to care about the workshop, she needed them to relate to her fight, to feel the fire behind her words, and to join her battle. But lurking in her subconscious was the question she had avoided since the message arrived: was she equipped to face what came next? Lily, you all right? Jake's voice pulled her from her thoughts. The worry etched into his features mirrored her internal tumult, but now she sensed a shift, the growing confidence propelled by clarity. Yeah. Just thinking about how we can turn this fear into something positive. Something that resonates. Jake grinned, encouraging her further. Exactly. You're finding your voice. As they printed the outline, the once distant echoes of her father's passion infused each line, guiding her. She felt alive, inspired by both the burden of his legacy and the palpable impact she could create. Remember, this is about more than the workshop. It's about you, Jake reminded her, a knowing smile flickering on his lips. The words settled in her mind. She was no longer a shadow in her father's workshop. Each hammer strike, every polished surface, reflected her resolve to forge her own path while honoring his memory. Then the phone buzzed again, making Lily's heart race anew. She dared not hope it was anything soothing. She picked it up, slowly, the protective shield over her emotions shattering under the weight of her heart's anticipation. Prepare for repercussions, it read. We'll be watching. The calm she had just built crumbled, replaced by the sharp sting of terror. The time had come for her to face the true challenge before her, to confront the antagonists who threatened not only her father's legacy but her very identity as well. What was the next move when fear turned into a game of survival? How far would she go to protect what she loved? Lily's mind whirled as she processed the chilling message. Prepare for repercussions. The words echoed through her thoughts like a heavy drum, marking a boundary she had yet to cross. Fear coiled around her, whispering doubts, but somewhere deep down, a flicker of defiance ignited. What do they mean by repercussions? Jake's voice sliced through her spiraling thoughts, filled with the urgency of the moment. She turned to him, meeting his concerned gaze. I'm not sure, but it sounds like they're not going to stop, Lily replied, her voice trembling slightly. Yet with every heartbeat, she sensed a rising tide of determination. Running wasn't an option. She had to take ownership of her father's legacy, not just as an obligation, but as a necessity. We need to identify who this is, Jake suggested, his brow furrowing in thought. We can't just sit back and wait. Yes, we can't wait. I want tea. Her words were stronger than she felt. She picked up her phone, ready to reach out to people she hadn't spoken to in years, neighbors, local business owners, anyone who had known her father. Information was power, and she needed it now more than ever. As she navigated through her contacts, she hesitated, doubting her own resolve. What if confronting the past brought more pain? But then the enormity of her father's ethos washed over her, fortifying her will. He had faced challenges with unwavering courage. She couldn't falter now. Lily began to compose messages, exploring each connection vigorously. "Hi, this is Lily. I'm reaching out because I'm working to protect my father's legacy," she wrote, her fingers moving with a new rhythm, fueled by purpose. "I've received some threats regarding the workshop, and I need to know if anyone has similar experiences." Each message was a lifeline, a yearning to connect and evoke the shared love for her father's work. She pressed send repeatedly, heart hammering in anticipation. "Do you think they'll respond?" Jake asked, sensing her anxiety. "They have to. Our community was built on those connections." The doubt within her was palpable, yet she pressed ahead. As minutes ticked by, unease crept back into the room. But it wasn't just fear anymore, it was anticipation. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of agency, a drive to plot her course. The workshop should remain a sanctuary, untainted by shadowy threats. "Let us not just react to their intimidation," Jake urged, locking eyes with her. "We can turn this around. How can we make it clear that you're here to stay?" Lily's mind raced through possibilities. A public statement. A press release or social media post. "I can outline everything: the threats, my intentions, and our connection to the community." Yes. Let people know they're not just threats, they're challenges you're prepared to face. Jake's enthusiasm ignited a deeper motivation in her. They spent the following hours crafting the statement, strong, factual, yet infused with her personal narrative. She highlighted her father's dedication, underscored the importance of the workshop, and conveyed that fear would not dictate their future. As Lily sat back, exhausted but exhilarated, the weight of the past along with the anticipation of the response felt almost liberating. For the first time, she was reclaiming her space, stepping into her identity not just as an extension of her father, but as herself. The moment seemed almost serene when her phone buzzed again. This time, her heart raced with a blend of hope and trepidation. She had already prepared herself for the worst, but what if this was the turning point? What if it held the key to unraveling the mystery lurking in the shadows? She opened the new message, matching the tension in the air. "Your post concerns us. Consider withdrawing before it's too late." A chill ran through her as the stakes escalated further. The pressure to yield was tightening, but Lily felt something stir within her, a resolve that was now irrevocably set in motion. The challenge was personal, and it had ignited a fire she couldn't ignore. What does it truly mean to stand firm? When everything is at stake? And when does self-defense morph into an all-out war? The message hung in the air like a weight, pressing down on Lily's chest. Each word seemed to reverberate, a dark reminder of the forces at play. Yet, amidst the chaos swirling within her, another truth began to assert itself: this struggle wasn't solely about threats, it was about integrity and perseverance. Filled with a sudden clarity, she took a deep breath, the kind that helped ground her in her purpose. She shared a glance with Jake, who was clearly concerned but also supportive. They were in this together, partners facing an uncertain future. "They want me to back down," Lily said slowly, the realization dawning on her. "But I can't. I want to let them take this from me." "What's our next move?" Jake asked, his voice steady, reflecting the commitment they both felt. She shifted in her seat, nerves still pricking, but the anxiety was morphing into an almost electric energy. "We deep dive into who's behind these threats. Time to probe this out more seriously." Fueled by resolve, Lily dove into research about local organizations that might be tied to her father's workshop. She started with old connections in the community, checking Facebook groups and local forums that had once been a vibrant part of her father's network. With every click of her keyboard, she found herself awakening not just to potential allies, but to her father's legacy, a vibrant tapestry of shared histories and mutual respect that was worth defending. After canvassing through half a dozen leads without much luck, she spotted a name that struck her, a former business partner of her father's. Emily. They'd once run joint projects, but the partnership had dissolved in the wake of a misunderstood disagreement that Lily had never quite grasped. She hesitated. The memories of her childhood danced before her, clouded by misunderstandings but tinged with hope and misgivings. It was time to revisit that past. Pulling out her phone, she sent a direct message to Emily. "Hi, it's Lily. I'm hoping we can talk. I've received threats and would love your insights into things." After pressing send, the waiting game began again. Seconds turned to minutes, then hours. The anxiety of her phone remaining silent gnawed at her. Then, a notification chimed. Emily had responded. "Let us meet. I've seen the messages. You'll need guidance." Lily felt adrenaline surge through her. The path ahead was uncertain, but she straightened in her chair, determination fortifying her. This encounter could be pivotal. She needed all the insight and clarity she could gather to navigate the shadowy forces arrayed against her. Preparing for the meeting later that week, she delved deeper into her father's work, combing through archives and old papers stored away in boxes. Each piece she unearthed revealed new facets of her father's passion. The workshop was not just a space, it was a sanctuary of knowledge, creativity, and vitality. But what she discovered next was unsettling. Hidden among the documents was correspondence from a name she recognized, an individual who had passed through her life without much thought, but now stood out like a warning beacon. Their intentions appeared ambiguous. Had they nurtured a rivalry with her father? One email hinted at dissatisfaction with a project, coded language that hinted at a deeper animosity. Shock rippled through her. Had all this simmered just below the surface, festering until it became a threat? Her determination solidified into a steely resolve. Had she underestimated the complexities of her father's relationships? The threads of her father's past were weaving into her present, each knot sparking revelations and hard questions. As the meeting with Emily approached, Lily realized that finding clarity required confronting not just her father's legacy, but also the ghosts of relationships that had shaped it. And with those ghosts came echoes of her own self-doubt. Could she truly step into this role? Could she face the opposition head-on? Would she emerge as a leader worthy of her father's legacy? The meeting would test her resolve and her identity. This wasn't just about threats anymore, it was about transformation and finding her place. The weight of that realization cut through her initial fears, transforming them into an eager anticipation for what lied ahead. Did Emily hold the key to unlock the tangled web of her father's past? Or would this meeting reveal more about Lily herself than she was prepared to confront? Lily arrived at the cafe well before her meeting with Emily, her heart thumping with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The sun filtered through the glass, illuminating the space with a warm glow, but the brightness did little to quell the storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. She was stepping into uncharted territory, a place where the past intertwined harshly with her present. Glancing around, she noted the innocent chatter around her, the clinking of coffee cups, laughter shared over pastries. It felt foreign. She was a world away from this peace, her focus narrowing to the task at hand. This conversation with Emily could either fortify her resolve or send her spiraling deeper into the complexities of her father's legacy. Her phone buzzed, cutting through her thoughts. It was a message from Emily. "I'm here." Taking a deep breath, she stood, smoothing down her shirt in a futile attempt to appear composed. As she stepped outside, she spotted Emily standing near a small bistro table, a woman whose presence radiated both authority and familiarity. "Lily," Emily said with a slight nod, her voice steady as she gestured to the chair across from her. "Thanks for meeting me." The air buzzed with unspoken words, history hanging between them like a thick fog. "Thank you for coming," Lily replied, settling into the chair and striving to stay focused. She couldn't dismiss the nostalgia. Childhood memories flickered briefly like far-off fires. "I didn't expect you'd want to help." Emily's expression softened. It's been a long time. Your father, he was a good man, complicated but driven by passion. I was sorry to hear he had passed. There was a hesitance in her voice, something Lily couldn't immediately place. Lily straightened, the weight of the past pressing on her shoulders. I found some emails indicating there was more to his partnerships than I realized, some unresolved issues. Her words tumbled out like a confession. Why did you stop working with him? Emily's gaze shifted, a moment of contemplation hanging in the air. It was a misunderstanding, one that spiraled out of control. I had some concerns about our project direction, but it was my fault for not addressing them directly. A shadow crossed her face, revealing a hint of regret. I was naive to think walking away would solve anything. Lily felt her heart rate quicken. How naive? Emily leaned in, her tone earnest. What I saw brewing wasn't just professional discontent. There were rivalries, hidden dynamics that could impact more than just the work. If someone felt rejected or slighted, they could retaliate. A knot formed in Lily's stomach. Retaliation? She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed added a layer of verification that left her feeling exposed. You think someone might be behind these threats? There's a chance, Emily replied, her demeanor shifting from discomfort to a determined focus. People can harbor grudges longer than we realize. Have you looked into those connections? Lily's mind raced. I found some troubling correspondence from a partner who seemed disgruntled. Do you know anything about a man named Mark DeLuca? At the mention of the name, Emily's expression darkened. Mark. He was a pivotal player in the network, but also someone who thrived on competition. If he believed your father's workshop overshadowed his ambitions, it could lead to dangerous outcomes. Dangerous outcomes, Lily said, the realization dawning thick and heavy. Her father's death had opened old wounds, and the shadows lurking around the workshop felt alive, filled with threats that had yet to reveal themselves. Emily's voice softened but carried an edge of urgency. Lily, there's something else you need to consider. Confronting Mark directly could put you in harm's way, but ignoring it could invite further issues. Are you prepared to face him? The challenge twisted within her, a stark test of her newfound resolve. Could she approach this adversary, a potential enemy rooted in her father's past, and stand strong? Silence fell between them, thickening as Lily grappled with her stance. The complexity of stepping into this role weighed heavily, but she felt the slow burn of determination ignite within her. She would do whatever it took to protect her father's legacy, even if that meant confronting the dark remnants of his past. Meeting him is inevitable, she finally stated, the words pouring out with sudden conviction. If I can understand the threat he poses, I can figure out how to protect what my father built. Emily studied her for a moment before nodding. That's the spirit, but remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand the dynamics of his network, the better prepared you'll be. As their conversation continued, Lily anchored herself in every word, pulling at the intricate threads of her father's past. With each revelation, the weight of responsibility lessened slightly, replaced by strength. She might still be stepping into unknown territory, but she refused to turn back. Soon, though, the quest for answers brought with it a harsh realization. The deeper she delved, the more she would have to confront not just Mark, but the unforeseen challenges of her own identity. Could she genuinely take on this mantle, or did the fear of her father's legacy loom larger than she anticipated? As they spoke, she found herself contemplating her strengths, awakening facets of tenacity buried within. The moment of truth was nearing, and Lily's resolve crystallized. She was ready to stand up, but would it be enough when the time came to face Mark? Unbeknownst to her, the shadows were not far behind, and as she and Emily wrapped up their conversation, the door to confrontation was already creaking open. Lily walked away from the cafe with a sense of purpose coiling tightly within her. The sun had shifted, casting longer shadows, and with each step, she felt the weight of her decision solidify. Confronting Mark was no longer just an abstract notion, it was a mission she had to undertake. The message from their discussion echoed in her mind: knowledge is power. She needed to gather more information if she was to stand her ground. On her way home, she ran through a mental checklist. What did she know about Mark DeLuca? The scattered pieces of information she had collected felt insufficient. As she paced around her living room, her gaze landed on her father's old desk, its surface littered with documents. She felt drawn toward it, propelled by a surge of determination. Sifting through the papers, she uncovered reminders of her father's ambitions, reports, sketches, and notes outlining plans for projects and partnerships. Each item was saturated with his hope, but beneath that optimism lay hints of unsettling dynamics. She furrowed her brow at a series of emails, each one displaying increasing strain between her father and his partners, particularly with Mark. The words leapt off the page, each an echo of tensions that foreshadowed the discord that would come to define their relationships. As her reading grew deeper, she discovered a pattern indicating Mark's disagreements spiraled toward accusations of incompetence. The more she read, the more she felt the weight of her father's choices resting upon her shoulders. She questioned not only the state of her father's legacy but also her place in it. Could she navigate these troubling waters without losing herself along the way? Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, startling her from her spiraling thoughts. It was a message from Emily, asking if there was anything else Lily needed to prepare for her meeting with Mark. The question hung heavy in her mind. Was she prepared? She rehearsed scenarios, mentally crafting dialogues that could unfold. Each imagined confrontation felt more intense than the last. Would she be able to hold her ground when the moment arrived? The confident stance she aimed to embody felt tenuous, a fragile mask she feared might shatter at the wrong provocation. Testing herself, she verbally confronted her reflections: "You are capable. You've already faced so much." With her heart pounding, a realization struck her: this confrontation wasn't solely about her father's legacy but about confronting her fear of inadequacy. To reclaim her narrative, she had to assert not only her role but also her voice. She would not let Mark define her or her father's decisions. She could carve out a path, one step at a time. To prepare, she dove into research on Mark and the affiliations he held. Each keystroke was deliberate, pulling her deeper into the undercurrents of their professional world. Was he well-connected? What alliances did he hold? The simple act of gathering information transformed into frenetic energy, igniting a fire she hadn't realized was waiting within. As the evening wore on, fatigue settled in her bones, but she pushed through. Armed with knowledge, she felt increasingly fortified, yet unease lurked at the edges. She would be stepping into a room with more than just Mark, she would be facing the contributions and turmoil of her father's life. The clock inched toward midnight, and with every tick, Lily sensed the looming confrontation. How would she react in real time? Would the knowledge she had gathered sustain her resolve, or would the reality of the situation overwhelm her? She took a deep breath, her reflection staring back from the mirror across the room. This wasn't merely about revenge or reclaiming something lost, it was about defining who she was in the shadows of her father's legacy. Just as she was about to strip away her fears and rest, a thought struck her. What if she made a strategic approach to Mark, one that involved bringing in allies? As she calculated her next moves in her mind, excitement tinged with apprehension welled up. What other dynamics could she leverage to her advantage? The room pulsed with possibilities, and she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. But Mark was still an unknown entity, and as she drifted into sleep, uncertainty clung to her as firmly as conviction. She could handle him, couldn't she? Her dreams were fraught with visions of confrontation and revelation, bringing clarity and confusion in turn. The time for decisions was closing in, and as morning light broke through the darkness, she woke, determined but acutely aware of the challenges she faced. How would she address the man who posed a threat to her father's legacy and to her own sense of self? The moment had arrived to face Mark DeLuca, where every choice she made could reverberate far beyond the present. Lily stood outside the office of Mark DeLuca, her pulse racing as the reality of the moment washed over her. The door loomed like an imposing barrier, and within it lay the complexity of her father's past and the uncertainty of her own future. She had transformed so much over the past few weeks, from a grieving daughter to a determined protector of her father's legacy. Today would be a test of everything she had learned about herself: her strength, her resolve, and her ability to confront adversity. As she took a deep breath, she recalled the vibrant conversations she had shared with her father in that very workshop, the lessons he imparted, the courage he exemplified. In that moment, a wave of calm cascaded through her. She was no longer just his daughter, she was an advocate for their shared dreams and the vision he left behind. With steady determination, she pushed the door open. The soft whir of the air conditioning met her ears, and she stepped inside, scanning the sparsely decorated office. Mark sat behind a large desk, surrounded by accolades that seemed to scream success while shadowing her father's work. His eyes flickered over her, assessing, calculating. "Lily, I didn't expect to see you," Mark said, his tone neutral yet subtly challenging. "I think we need to talk," she replied, her voice steady, fueled by the urgency of her mission. This encounter wasn't simply about confronting him, it was about establishing her rightful place in her father's legacy. "About what?" Mark leaned back in his chair, an air of detached amusement hanging around him. "About the workshop," she began, her heart hammering, but she pressed on. "I know there have been threats associated with it. And I recognize your role in my father's life. What happened between you two? I want to understand." A flicker of emotion crossed Mark's face, and for a brief moment, Lily thought she caught a glimpse of regret. "Your father and I had our differences. He was passionate, yes, but also inflexible. His approach alienated some in the community, including me. I've always believed in my vision, and I resented how his overshadowed mine." Lily's resolve solidified. "But threatening me and my father's legacy to settle those scores isn't right. I know there's more to this story. We need to provide a path forward, not a path of destruction." Mark scoffed lightly, but she pressed on. "You need to know something. I'm here to defend everything that workshop represents, a sanctuary for creativity and learning. My father built that place with love, and I refuse to let it be dismantled by grudges." The tension in the room thickened as Mark leaned in slightly, intrigued. "You think you can stop me?" "I don't think, I know," she insisted, the ferocity of her words surprising even her. "I'm gathering the community to support the legacy he left behind. I've spoken to people, shared our stories, and I plan to protect that workshop with everything I have." His expression shifted, a mix of amusement and curiosity noted. "You're playing a risky game, Lily. You realize not everyone will stand with you. There are those who could turn on you. And if they do? I'll face that too," she countered, her earlier fears dissolving into confidence. "I'm not my father, I'm me. And this workshop matters because it's a part of who I am. I want to know what it would take for you to walk away from this hostility. Is the rivalry worth the detriment of his legacy and your own?" Mark paused, a conflict warring behind his eyes. "You're feistier than I expected. Perhaps you might be able to stir change, but change doesn't come without sacrifices." "I'm willing to sacrifice for what's right," she replied firmly. Their exchange hung in the air, a taut line pulled so tight, it could break or bind them. "Consider this," he said eventually, a hint of vulnerability emerging. "This town has a long memory, and its loyalties can shift like the wind. Stay strong, Ms. Jacobs. You may need it." With that, Lily left the office, her heart racing yet filled with a fierce sense of achievement. She had stepped into the ring of confrontation and emerged stronger. Outside, the sun beat down, reminding her of the challenges ahead but equally illuminating the path she had chosen. The community would rise with her, and she was ready to face whatever forces lingered in the shadows. She reached for her phone, sending a group message to the neighbors, the students of her father, and local supporters. It's time to come together. We will safeguard our community and honor my father's legacy through this workshop. Join me. With every word she typed, she wove together not just support for her father, but a united front for her own identity. It would require unyielding strength and an unwavering commitment to her convictions, but she was primed for the challenge. In that moment, Lily was not merely a descendant of her father's craftsmanship, she was a formidable presence. She had transformed grief into purpose, confrontation into clarity, and uncertainty into action. The next chapter awaited, filled with possibilities born from courage. She was Lily Jacobs, the protector, the advocate, and the embodiment of resilience. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.